Sports with Sports Nightly. First, tonight's sports headlines.
Good evening, I'm Austin Orman. We'll lead off the hour with today's headlines and scores. Politicians from 6 states in the Big Ten footprint signed a letter to Big Ten Commissioner Kevin Warren and the conference's presidents and chancellors asking them to consider reinstating the fall football season. In the letter, the lawmakers argue that, quote, recent actions taken by other conferences across the country to start football and other fall sports have placed the Big Ten, its members, and students at a disadvantage, end quote. Some news from the NFL. The Arizona Cardinals and wide receiver DeAndre Hopkins reportedly agreed on a 2-year contract extension. They'll be worth $42.5 million. Hopkins came to Arizona in a trade with Houston earlier in the summer. He is now the highest paid non-quarterback in football history. 2 NBA games tonight. We've got one from each conference in progress right now. Is the Bucks leading the Heat 18-9. The Bucks looking to stave off elimination. They trail Miami 3-1 in the Eastern Conference semifinals. And at 8 o'clock, we'll have tip-off between the Lakers and the Rockets. That series will play game 3 tonight. It's tied 1-1. Had a couple first games of doubleheaders in the books already for Major League Baseball. The Phillies topped the Red Sox 6-5 in their 7-inning game, while the Twins beat the Cardinals 7-3 in St. Louis. Games in progress right now include that second Twins and Cardinals game. In the bottom of the second, the Twins lead the Cards 2-0. No score between the Blue Jays and the Yankees in the top of the second. In the bottom of the third, it's Athletics 2, Astros 0. Bottom half of the third in Cleveland, the Indians lead the Royals 5-3. And in the bottom of the third inning, the Nationals lead the Rays 2-0. Coming up shortly, we'll have the White Sox and the Pirates from Pittsburgh. At the bottom of the hour, you get the Phillies and Red Sox Game 2, as well as the Marlins at the Braves, the Brewers at the Tigers, and the Orioles at the Mets. Live inside the Husker Sports Network studios, I'm Austin Norman.
Your state, your team, your show. This is Sports Nightly.
Adrian goes under center this time. Mills, the deep back. Turn and toss it to Mills off the left side. He's to the 10. Stiff arms a man. 5 dives. He is in. Touchdown, Nebraska. Dedrick Mills finds the end zone from 14 yards out.
Now, let's check the pulse of Husker Nation with your hosts, Greg Sharp and Ben McLaughlin.
Thank you. Welcome back. Hope you had a great holiday weekend. The unofficial end of summer. But boy, by the way, the turn of the weather in our state in the last 24 hours kind of slammed the door on summer, didn't it? Wow. Good to be back with you here tonight. Short week, just the 4 days, but we're really excited about the upcoming weekend because we're going to launch on Saturday a complete season of Husker football. We're going to go back in time to the 1994 Husker football season, Tom Osborne's first national championship team at Nebraska, and we're going to each Saturday during the fall play back a game, start to finish. And this week it will start with a kickoff classic, the game with West Virginia at the Meadowlands in New Jersey, and then we'll move on to week 2, then week 3, then week 4 as we move through the fall. And so on a lot of these fine affiliates of ours, you'll be able to hear Husker football from 1994 every Saturday afternoon beginning at 1 o'clock Central Time. And this is going to be a blast to go back and relive that season, listen to Kent Pavelka on the call of that season, and we'll also sprinkle in some conversations with players from that team. It'll be probably about a 5-hour broadcast, somewhere right around there. 4.5 to 5 hours, starting with, about a 30 to 40-minute pregame show. Then the game, halftime show. We've even secured President Ted Carter to come on and update us on university happenings each halftime, like we would do during a normal Husker football season. And then we'll have a postgame show that we'll even open up the phone lines for you if you want to call and reminisce about that game. We'll also, throughout the day, keep you up to date on the college football world that's going on this year with the conferences that are playing. So we'll have some scoreboard updates throughout the afternoon. So we're excited to be able to roll that out starting on Saturday with the West Virginia game. And, Ben, I know you're looking forward to getting a chance to just sit down and talk throughout the fall with guys from that 94 team and kind of reflect back on what had to be a really special time in all those guys' lives.
Yeah, I've heard a lot from some of the guys, that obviously Brendan, who is my co-host, and we talked to him every Saturday. And I've heard his perspective, but to just hear some different voices on that team that maybe have had a different perspective, and I think add a different dimension to the broadcast that will make it fun. So, yeah, I mean, it's always nice to be able to talk to the former guys that can reminisce and tell those stories that our fans love to hear, and this one's no different. So obviously, dipping into 13 games, you're going to get a lot of different availability for players, and that's going to be exciting for me to be able to reminisce with some of those guys.
Such an interesting season. It was not, even though that team didn't lose a game, it was a season that had a lot of twists and turns with it. Injuries to different people. Brooke Behringer had the punctured lung. Tommy Frazier had the blood clot issue. Lawrence Phillips was bursting onto the scene as one of the best backs in the country that year. So it's going to be fun to follow along as that season moves through the next couple of months. So we're going to fill up your fall with some Husker football. I know we would all love for it to be the modern-day version, the current team, but that's not going to be the case. And so this is how we're going to fill some afternoons, and we're grateful to our affiliates for agreeing to carry these games on Saturday afternoon, make the programming available to all of you wonderful Husker fans out and around. So I hope you enjoy it. Listen to it again, 1 o'clock on Central Time. Each Saturday we'll begin a pregame show with the game broadcast to follow, starting here on Saturday, September the 12th. And we'll take you all the way through the first Saturday of December before we wrap it up, because we'll play the full 12 games of the regular season and then the Orange Bowl against the Miami Hurricanes to wrap it all up. So looking forward to that. College football did begin with FBS action this past weekend. It started with a couple of games on Thursday night, some games Saturday, and then the game last night that was another blowout. Man, BYU just absolutely picked apart Navy last night. I did not see that kind of a lopsided game coming at all. BYU looked really good. We talked to a writer last week that covers BYU, and he felt like the Cougars had a pretty good football team, that they had been pointing to the 2020 season as a bit of a breakthrough for them. And, man, was he right, because they just absolutely sunk the Navy last night in that game. There really weren't a lot of great games on Saturday. The Memphis-Arkansas State game was okay. Arkansas State will actually play K-State this Saturday in their second game, and the Wildcats' first game. That was a decent football game Saturday night. And the SMU-Texas State game Saturday afternoon on ESPN was okay, but a lot of blowouts in what was a very slim schedule for college football this past weekend. Now it gets going much more intensely this Saturday with the ACC and the Big 12 rolling into action. So there'll be quite a few more games to be following coming up here this Saturday. All right, I know that there's a lot of people that are out there kind of still holding on to hope that there's going to be a 11th hour agreement within the Big Ten Conference. I have not felt that way now for several weeks. And even today, I know there was rumors flying all weekend long that there was going to be another vote of the Big Ten presidents and chancellors today to maybe reverse the decision to cancel the fall and look toward the winter for a season. There was never a vote today. I don't believe in to flip any kind of decision. The league mandates that they need a 60% positive vote. They can't get there. They can't get to 9 people that want to open this season up in the next month. So there was no vote taken today. Ben, I wish I could deliver to everybody positive news that this thing is going to flip, and in a month we're going to be seeing the Huskers charge out of the tunnel at Memorial Stadium. We're going to have a few fans in the stadium and watch this team play here in October. But I just don't think that's going to happen, and I've tried to kind of be protective of that and not give a lot of people false hope over the last couple of weeks. And it seems like, and you and I have talked about it a lot in the last 2-3 weeks, it seems like something kind of bubbles up and you kind of get your optimism up and feel like it's going to happen. But for a good solid week now, I really haven't felt like there's enough momentum among the chancellors and the presidents to flip this over. And I know that's disappointing to a lot of people, and maybe I'll be shocked and surprised here in a couple weeks. I hope I'm wrong. But for right now, I think that what we talked about with Teddy on Thursday, that they're looking at 3 plans: a Thanksgiving start, a start right after Christmas in the domes, or kind of the spring plan, which would be February and March football. I think those are probably the three options that we're looking at.
Yeah, I don't get the sense that it's going to happen before Thanksgiving. That's just the feeling I get. I just think it's wishful thinking. And look, there are teams that want to play right now, and I think we all understand that. And I think that's what gives us hope anytime one of these rumors pops up. And I feel like it's every single day that something pops up that gives people hope. I'm just gonna go work under the assumption that these are all just rumors and speculation until I'm proven otherwise. I just don't think I want to get in the mindset to where every time I read something like that comes across today that I think it's all of a sudden going to flip. I mean, we're getting pulled in so many different directions, and every single time, we haven't been getting any indication from the league, from other places that it's going to switch, and that decision's going to get turned upside down. So I'm going to work under the assumption of a best case scenario being Thanksgiving, late November, and that's just the way I'm going to approach it. I know people are going to approach it, other ways, which is just fine. But I just see it being too big of a hurdle, Greg, of this having to change so quickly. And I mean, even if they said tomorrow on September 9th that, okay, we can start going, coaches are going to want at least a month to get their guys ready. So, I mean, even best case scenario in October 9th, and that's if it happens tomorrow. I just don't know even if they were to flip that decision, I don't know that they could get it started, that quickly. So I'm just going to work under the assumption that it's going to be a late November start.
Yeah, I that's kind of what I resigned myself to. Over the weekend, there was a player-led protest at Michigan. Jim Harbaugh marched with the players and mainly basically just said, I agree with my brother John, who said, free the Big Ten players, let them play. The most telling quote from Jim Harbaugh that the Detroit media, including our Angelique Shengalis from the Detroit News, who we have on here periodically, the most telling quote from Jim Harbaugh was that he's had no communication with his own school president. I mean, that seems kind of odd to me that the head football coach can't get an audience with that school's president, but it sounds like that's the way it is in Ann Arbor with that school, and I think that's a school that is blocking, among others, but they may be the most powerful of the group that's kind of blocking a return to play at an earlier date for Big Ten football. In fact, today, and Austin had this in the ticker a couple of minutes ago, there was a group of legislators led from a Michigan point of view that sent a letter to Kevin Warren to reconsider. It was primarily signed by Michigan legislators, but it was joined by several other legislators from other states in the Big Ten footprint. But when Jim Harbaugh can't even get his own school president to return a text or a call, man, that's not a good situation. It makes you feel good about what Nebraska has going, where it does seem and has been this way really all along that Ted Carter, Ronnie Green, Bill Moose, and Scott Frost have been on the same page as they move their way through the last 5-6 months to try to get the Huskers back on the field sooner than later. But wish I had better news. I wish I was maybe giving you hope, but I feel in some ways if I do that, it's more false hope that we're throwing out to you. And I'm with Ben. Until something completely comes down the pike that's official, I'm really not going to fall into those traps that a lot of people have been falling into for weeks now. I think we just have to resign ourselves that the first we'll see any Big Ten football at all would be on Thanksgiving. If you have some thoughts about that or anything, 531-500-4686. That's the number to call, or shoot us a text at that same number. That is our U.S. Cellular text line. U.S. Cellular, the official wireless provider of Husker Athletics. All right, here's what we have on the program tonight. Brian Christopherson of Huskers 24/7 going to join us here in a little bit. We'll get his take on a lot of different things surrounding the Huskers, including a recent binge of recruits that have committed to Nebraska football. And I know he and his group have been out watching some high school football the last couple of Fridays, looking at some young men that have committed to Nebraska. We'll get his take on that and also the current situation in the Big Ten. Adam Rittenberg will start his weekly segment with us. Normally, Adam will be with us on Mondays to recap the previous weekend of college football and look ahead to the upcoming weekend. Because we didn't have a show last night because of the Labor Day, Adam was kind enough to say he would do Tuesday night tonight, so we'll talk to Adam at the top of hour number 2. We'll go beyond the headlines and Top 10 Tuesday. Looking forward to our Top 10 topic tonight, Ben, as we're 2 days away from the start of the National Football League, so we're going to do a little power rankings. My number one's probably pretty obvious. Maybe yours will be too, but this was fun to jump into this, and I'm really getting excited. We had a little fantasy draft, our Sports Island League fantasy draft the other day. I'm getting excited for the NFL to get cranked up here.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have any sort of rooting interest in college, so, you know, with the Chiefs starting on Thursday, that's all I get. So I am all in on the NFL this season. And obviously with the fantasy draft that we did, bragging rights on the line, and, you know, we're even doing a fantasy football podcast, not so much as an information tool for you. So, like, if you think we're like CBS Sports or, you know, those gurus on like Fantasy Pros, that is not the type of content you're going to get. I mean, you'll get our opinions on things, but it's more so just, you know, entertainment purposes, and we don't really get to talk a ton of NFL on this show. So, an opportunity for us to do that, which we're excited about, but. Yeah, our first podcast will drop tomorrow. You can hear inside the minds of all of us as we were drafting and critiquing. We even have a fan that joined our league that we put out a tweet, and he responded, and he was selected as our winner, and a couple of former Huskers in our league as well, with Josh Banderas and Jeremiah Searle. So, yeah, looking forward to it. I think it's gonna be fun, and I'm ready to watch some NFL football. That's for sure.
We'll also update you later in the show about the former Huskers that either stuck with a 53-man roster or some that got put on the practice roster. Austin has been compiling those names. We'll go over those later on in the program as well. It's a Sports Highlight Tuesday. We're back with Brian Christopherson. Next Sports Highlight Tuesday night. Greg Sharp with you. Delighted to be joined now by Brian Christopherson of Huskers 24/7. Hello, BC. How are you tonight?
Doing pretty good. How about you?
I'm okay. How have you handled the last couple of weeks with all these rumors that have swirled around? Have you kept your sanity going?
I went fishing, so that was the best move I've made in the last month. I went up to Minnesota to get some intel on PJ Flex program. I'm joking about that, but I went up to a lake up there and got away last week and was fishing and. Yeah, I know the rumor mill has been swirling about October start, November, Thanksgiving, is it January, and there's still no clarity.
Well, I want to get your thoughts because I said this in the open of our show. I just, you know, and I'm generally an optimistic guy, but I just don't get a sense that the Big Ten is going to reverse themselves for an October start. I think they're looking at a Thanksgiving model. They're looking at a late December, early January model where they go to the domes and play there. To me, those are the two they're looking at. Do you get a different sense?
No, I agree with you. I mean, you're talking about if they were to play in October, you're going to need like 6 or 7 presidents, chancellors, a lot of powerful people to switch their opinion, or in a way say, maybe we botched this, or maybe we didn't quite get this right. Let's go back on this. And how likely is that? I don't think it's real likely. I think the Michigan schools in particular, Michigan and Michigan State, at the top at least, I know Jim Harbaugh wants to play, but at the very top of the platform there, I don't know that they're going to go along with moving into October. Obviously, Ohio State, where a lot of the rumors seem to be coming from, or a lot of the reports are coming from, you can understand why the Buckeyes are so gung-ho about playing. I mean, they've got a championship caliber team, and I've said this before, but I mean, it would be the equivalent of if, like, 1994 Nebraska was loaded up, ready to go after a title that they just missed out on the year before, and, you can't do that. And people here would just be, beyond themselves about not being able to have that possibility with that kind of team. And so you can imagine, as bad as we're feeling here about it, for good reason and some financial reasons too, you can add to that with Ohio State and the type of team they have coming. So I think Nebraska's got support and people who agree with a lot of what the Husker coaches and staffers and the officials at Nebraska think. I just don't think there's enough at the top to change this thing. And then even if they start on Thanksgiving, it's going to be interesting because there's going to be some blowback because the Big Ten would be starting a season just as the other leagues, if they go through with it, are winding down and kind of determining their playoff teams. And that's not going to be a great look either. So I honestly, the Big Ten's in a box where, from a perception PR standpoint, if the other leagues go forward and play, I don't think there's a way that Big Ten officials can come out looking that rosy no matter what happens, unless everybody just ends up not playing this fall.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think their best thing to do is, and I think they're trying to do this, honestly, I think they're trying to just get together with the Pac-12, play some kind of 7-8 game schedule, and then let the conference winners go play in a different kind of a Rose Bowl in March. I think that, to me, that's what they're trying to do right now, and I even heard rumblings out of the Pac-12. What did you do Saturday? Was that when you were in Minnesota? You just got out of town for what would have been the opener?
Yeah, I was up in Minnesota. I was watching some football. I mean, it just felt so weird, here's the thing. It was going to be such a beautiful opener when it was originally scheduled with Purdue, and you've got this sort of, very important Big Ten West clash right off the beginning in Memorial Stadium. At that time, Rondale Moore would have been with Purdue and played in that game if things were normal under those circumstances. And it would have just been a great test. You would have had the whole Diaco storyline of him coming back as the D coordinator with Purdue. And it was just hard to not wake up the first Saturday in September to Nebraskans, I think it's not far from Christmas. It's basically that in that same category to people. You just wake up with that bounce in your step, and you can feel it like, living in Lincoln. You can walk into the grocery store, you can be, in the aisle of Hy-Vee, and you just feel it around you. It's like there's an electricity of it's football season, and it's just hard when that's not there. And even though there were some games going on, it wasn't the same elite play you're used to on opening weekend, and it just didn't really work for me, to be honest.
No, I hear you. Well, again, visiting with Brian Christopherson of Huskers 24/7. Well, the Husker staff has been busy. What a rash of commits over the last 7-8 days. Give me your breakdown, your thoughts about this recruiting class that they're putting together.
Yeah, this is about as good a climb in a short period of time as I've seen in Nebraska recruiting. 2 weeks ago, they were ranked 40th in our 24/7 sports composite. And I know not everybody gets that fired up about rankings, but that's where they were. And then you get Kobe Brutz out of Omaha West Side to commit. Then you get Thomas Fedone 2 days later. And then you get A.J. Rollins of Omaha Creighton Prep 2 days after that. And Nebraska suddenly goes from 40th to a top 25 class in our rankings. And now after the latest commit from a New Jersey linebacker, Jersey, which is a state that Husker fans with deep recruiting knowledge will know, as Mike Rozier and Jason Peter and Irving Fryer. I mean, it's been good to Nebraska, and now Nebraska's ranked 22nd in our rankings. So, and that's actually 5 spots ahead of Minnesota, and Minnesota was at one point a top 5 class. So, it's a reminder that with recruiting, you got to always play the long game, and for Nebraska to be in the top 25 at this moment without having official visits or having the spring game as a recruiting tool is quite an accomplishment. And they've done it with some help from local recruiting. You had those 3 guys in a week span who were all within 60 miles of the campus who raised their hand and said yes to Nebraska. And you got to win locally this cycle. There's no doubt about it, because since you can't get guys from far away to visit as much, it makes it much more challenging.
Well, what's the best use of this team's time in the next month or so, Brian? I mean, as you mentioned, they didn't get spring ball. I mean, they got 2 practices, I guess. They got 3 practices before they were told you couldn't put the pads on back in August. They haven't been to a bowl game in 3 years, so they haven't had those practices. What do you think the goal is for the next 60 days for this program, with the rules that they're having to live under right now?
Well, I mean, you just got to connect with each other as much as possible. I mean, I think that right now they get 12 hours together, and, you know, you got to use that to study up on yourself and meet with your coaches. And if you can get on the field some, that's great. But honestly, they need a roadmap in front of them. I mean, I really feel for these guys. I mean, they're creatures of habit. Anybody who plays athletics, you know, the seasons, there's a rhythm to it where you're getting ready at this time and you're prepping to play at this time and you practice at this time, and it's just all thrown out of whack right now. And, you know, they lost a guy in Keyshawn Green recently who entered the transfer portal. In normal circumstances, you know, Keyshawn Green would have been, you know, practicing in fall camp in August and, you know, maybe one of the top 6 linebackers, top 4 linebackers. And there's that buzz and excitement about playing, and it keeps guys, you know, motivated and, you know, ready to go. And so I think this program really needs the Big Ten to say, this is what we're doing. Whether it's January or Thanksgiving, in the next couple of weeks, something has to rise to the surface where these players know, okay, this is what's in front of you, and this is when you can practice, and they can just get ready to adjust to something like that. And so that's where it's difficult. Right now, it's just foggy. You know, they're stuck in a fog, and it's very difficult to work through those circumstances.
Are you fearful that there may be more exits from the program just because of what you said, kind of the lull in the action for everybody?
Yeah, I think a little bit. I think all coaches are, and that's a big reason why, you know, it's not the only reason. There are tons of reasons, but it's the reason why Scott Frost, Ryan Day, all these guys, they want to play football. They you know, other schools are going to try to come in and say, hey, we're playing over here. Come join us. And so that's something you definitely worry about if you sit out too long. And it's also why the Big Ten can't mess this up. I mean, they do have to come up with a plan pretty quickly, but it also has to be a plan that they're willing to stick to, because you can imagine if they pull the rug out from under these guys again, like you set something up, okay, we're going to start November 26th, and then suddenly that's not happening. That's going to be tough for the Big Ten for years to come back from. So I definitely think it's something you worry about. I think the transfer portal could be a pretty busy place, not just with Nebraska guys, but all over. And so roster management has always been probably one of the most difficult parts of being a coach. And now it's like times that by 100 how challenging it is. We don't know what the numbers are going to look like, and some guys, you know, are going to want to move on in some places. It's just very difficult.
What's your crystal ball say about this lawsuit that the 8 Husker players have filed? Has it rocked the boat to a certain degree? Can it continue to do that? What do you make of that?
I don't know if they're ultimately going to get what they wanted in the lawsuit, but I'll tell you what they did. They kept the heat on them, and they've kind of kept the beach ball in the air, and then you get some, you know, legislators who today are out there issuing letters to Kevin Warren, and it's not going away. I mean, the Big Ten officials, whatever you think of their decision, they are going to keep hearing from people who are saying, you know, we're dissatisfied and let's get this thing rolling. I appreciated what they're after. They want answers. The players and parents want answers, and I think any journalist, I mean, that's what we usually want, right? We want answers. We want to get to the bottom of, okay, what actually happened that made this decision. And I do not feel like, even to this point, the Big Ten has explained that decision really well. And I know they kind of wanted it to go away. They're like, okay, here's the vote. It was 11-3. Are you happy now? But that was just like 1 point of, you know, 5 or 6 points or more than that those players were looking for. So I don't think they got near what they wanted. I don't know that they will, but I do think it's going to keep the pressure on the Big Ten to follow through and actually make a season happen at some point and not back away from it. So in the end game, it might end up having an effect where we say, yeah, that was pretty useful to making sure that football at least got played at some point, because it kept the temperature high on the Big Ten.
Yeah, I'm proud of them. I think they've gotten more answers out of the Big Ten than anybody else that's interviewed Kevin Warren or any of those people. So I'm proud of what they've done. All right, what's keeping you guys busy? How are you going to kind of fill some content over the coming weeks? You got any big plans?
Oh, that's a good question. Recruiting Nebraska's rolling in recruiting right now, and there's a lot of good players that they're in. They're in on a 4-star D lineman out in Las Vegas right now that is trending Nebraska's way. And there's some other high-profile guys that the Huskers are riding high on. So we'll definitely be covering that. And I think one thing that's been kind of nice about this is we've gotten out more than ever and are going to continue to do so this fall and watch, the local talent and some of these guys who are, whether they have scholarship offers to Nebraska or they might be walk-on guys, or even if they don't end up at Nebraska, but they're college prospects. We're getting a chance to go out and see those guys more because there's no game to cover Saturday, and there's just more time and freedom to do that. So, I went out last week and watched Heinrich Hartberg, play for Kearney Catholic and Scott Frost's old town in Wood River, and that was a lot of fun. It was just a beautiful night at the perfect 70-degree weather and a high school football game. And so I hope fans who are missing Husker football can get out when they can and watch some of the high school guys do their thing.
No doubt. BC, we appreciate it. Thank you so much. Have a great week.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Brian Christopherson, Huskers 24/7, joining us on our Sports Sunday hotline, brought to you by the Woodhouse Auto family, bringing you more choices in brands, locations, and service. Experience the difference. Purchase with confidence. This is Woodhouse. All right, opening up those phone lines again for you. 531-500-4686. That's also our U.S. Cellular text line. Again, 531-500-4686. Ben will rejoin me next. Back Sports Highlight Tuesday night. Greg Sharp, Ben McLaughlin with you. 531-500-4686. The number if you want to dial us up with a comment or shoot us a text. Rick and Eli shot us a text. Says, feels good that college football is starting, but I'm going to have to cheer for our neighbor teams of the Big 12, but our heart aches for our Huskers not playing. It's fall. The Big Ten is really slapping us in the face on the handling of all this. We really need to get out of this conference, and a lot of Husker fans agree. How'd you spend Saturday? Did you get up and watch game day and watch any college football, or did you just ignore it?
I did watch some game day, and every game I watched was an utter blowout, so I didn't watch a ton of college football, honestly. I mean, none of the games are really all that competitive. So I did watch game day. It was weird. Kind of the tone of that whole show was different and not what we typically see from game day, with both kind of the setting of the show with everybody kind of in their own area, and then just the conversations on the show. I think everybody by now saw, Kirk Herbstreit and his kind of testimony he gave about, the social injustices happening in our country right now. And it just, it didn't really feel like college game day to me, to be honest.
It was odd. They spent almost as much time talking about the Big Ten and the Pac-12 for not playing as they were about the teams that were playing and the games that day. And again, there weren't a lot of marquee games that day that would get a lot of people excited. But Larry Scott, the commissioner of the Pac-12, made an appearance. He talked about their deal last week with the company for the rapid testing and what that might mean. But again, there was another opportunity, and I don't know that if he was invited or not, but you would have thought that Kevin Warren would have been given an invite to be on that program and explain more. Whether he was or not, I don't know, but that would have been a great opportunity to try to address and answer some questions about this. Larry Scott did and came on that and made his comment. Again, on our text line, how can you legitimately look at players in the face and tell them they can't play when there are thousands of students on campuses around the country? Total hypocrisy. He's right. I mean, that's one of the arguments is that these colleges have opened their doors to the student bodies to come back, live in dorms, live in Greek houses, and yet you can't play sports in the fall. That's one of the things that certainly has people's attention. Let's head out of state to Michigan. Greg, you're up next on Sports Alley. Good evening.
Good evening. How's it going?
Good, man. How you doing?
Hey, I am so upset because I'm a big Red fan, but I live in Michigan. And we're getting radio silence here in Michigan. Jim Harbaugh was a part of a protest over the weekend, and the local news, I'm 2.5 hours away, didn't even show anything about it. I get all my news from Huskers media out there, and it is just so sickening to me because of the economic impact, and I just don't understand it. We got high school football back. Instead of 9 games, they're going to play 6. But we can't get Michigan or Michigan State on board to play Big Ten football. It's just absurd to me, and I'm so frustrated by this whole thing. So I just wonder what you think about getting everybody on board.
Yeah, man, appreciate the call all the way up in Michigan. I think you feel how a lot of people do, and a lot of people want the sport, and it's hard sitting here watching other schools continue to play and have those other big conferences kind of kick off here this week in just a few days. It's tough, and yeah, you're right. You're in a predicament where you're located up in Michigan because there's a severe disconnect between the University of Michigan head coach Jim Harbaugh and the president of the university who voted no. There's obviously a disconnect there, and yeah, that's a bummer to hear. That's a bummer to hear that you can't find any news or outcry on that. Yeah, Michigan is one of the more intriguing locations right now, Greg, in this whole deal because you got 2 pretty big programs in that state that are probably leaning towards playing, but not given that opportunity.
Yeah, not on the same page at all. The Dan Patrick Show, they've been all over this story from a national standpoint for weeks now. They came out today and they said that the Michigan schools, the Illinois schools, Maryland, and Rutgers are the no's right now. They don't want to play, and there's 6 schools right there, and that prevents the vote to get over the top to allow it to happen. And the Michigan one's the head scratcher, and I know that they got hit pretty hard early on in this virus, but it seems like they've gotten a lot of things under control. They did a reversal. Their High School Activities Association did do a reversal last week and is going to allow high school football now in that state, but they can't seem to get that to go on up the ladder to the collegiate level to allow the Michigans. Because I think if Michigan and Michigan State would flip to yes votes, I think we could have football sooner than later, but they don't seem to be showing any signs of cracking. Greg, hang in there. Better days are ahead. 531-500-4686. Back to wrap up Hour 1 next. Our Sports Nightly Hotline brought to you by the Woodhouse Auto Family, bringing you more choices in brands, locations, and service. Experience the difference. Purchase with confidence. This is Woodhouse. The NFL had their roster cut down over the weekend to get to the 53-man limit. And, man, the Huskers are going to be well represented, Ben, as they've got – let me just go down to the guys that made teams. Divina Zigbo with Jacksonville, and Ndamukong with Tampa, Levante David, Tampa, Sethan Carter with the Bengals. Good for him. Josh Kalu still with the Titans. Malik Collins with the Raiders, and now a captain. He was named a captain earlier today, so first year with that team after leaving Dallas. Richie Incognito's also with the Raiders. Andy Janovich now a Brown. Sam Cook with the Baltimore Ravens. Nick Gates starting along the offensive line for the Giants. Luke Gifford with Dallas. Randy Gregory is on the roster but not eligible to play. He has to pass some hurdles. Amir Abdullah with the Vikings. Rex Burkhead with the Patriots. Alex Lewis with the Jets. Nathan Gary with the Eagles. Will Compton back with the Titans after not starting off their camp with them, but he got signed. Carlos Davis made the Steelers after being drafted by them. Khalil Davis made the Bucs, so you got a bunch of Huskers on that Tampa Bay team. Brent Qualley gets on the Houston team. Stanley Morgan and Freedom Akamaludin still on the Bengals practice squad. Lamar Jackson was with the Jets in their camp, got cut but added to their practice squad, and Darian Daniels, Ben, the same thing with the Niners. Was on their camp squad, didn't make the team, but got put on the 53. That's a pretty good, healthy list of Huskers there.
Yeah, it is, and a lot of young guys, too, getting an opportunity, which is awesome. So congratulations to all them, and I think there's a lot of Tampa Bay Buccaneer fans in the state right now going to keep an eye on what's happening down there in Tampa, not because of Tom Brady, but because of all the Huskers on our roster.
Might turn into my number 2 team in Divina. Zigbo, I think, has a chance to get some carries early in the season for Jacksonville. Hopefully he does a nice job there. Good first hour. Thanks to Brian Christopherson of Husker 24/7 for spending some time with us. Coming up next hour, Adam Rittenberg of ESPN.com will stop by. It'll be a weekly visit with Adam, talking college football, and we'll go beyond the headlines, see what else is happening around the world. That's all coming up in hour 2.
First, tonight's sports headlines.
Good evening, I'm Austin Norman. We'll start the hour off with today's headlines and scores. Politicians from 6 states across the Big Ten footprint signed a letter to Big Ten Commissioner Kevin Warren and the conference's presidents and chancellors that asked them to consider reinstating the fall football season. In the letter, the lawmakers argue that, quote, recent actions taken by other conferences across the country to start football and other fall sports have placed the Big Ten, its members, and its students at a disadvantage, end quote. The Arizona Cardinals and wide receiver DeAndre Hopkins are closing a 2-year contract extension that would add $42.5 million to his contract. Hopkins came over to Arizona in a trade with Houston earlier in the summer. He's now the highest paid non-quarterback in football history. Some more recent news from the NFL as well. Denver Broncos defensive lineman Von Miller went down with an ankle injury during today's practice. He has not yet gotten an MRI to fully diagnose that issue. 2 NBA games tonight, one of them in progress right now. It just hit half, and the Heat came back from a 9-point first quarter deficit to lead the Bucks by 6 at the break. It's 52-46 Miami in the game and 3-1 Miami in the Eastern Conference semifinal series. Coming up at the top of the 8 o'clock hour, we'll have Game 3 in a Western Conference semifinal series between the Los Angeles Lakers and the Houston Rockets. A couple final scores to give you from the wide world of baseball. A couple doubleheaders have gone final already. In Game 1, the Phillies walked off the Red Sox 6-5, while the Twins topped the Cardinals 7-3. Games in progress right now, including that second game of the Cardinals-Twins series is headed St. Louis's way right now. It's 5-2 Redbirds in the middle of the 4th inning. Top of the 6th inning, the Nationals lead the Rays 4-1 in D.C. Bottom half of the 6th, the homestanding Indians lead the Royals 5-3. Also in the bottom of the 6th, the A's lead the Astros 4-2. In the top of the 5th, it's Toronto 2 and the Yankees nothing. Top half of the 4th frame, no score between the White Sox and the Pirates. Same lack of a score in the bottom of the 3rd between Milwaukee and Detroit. In the top of the 3rd, Miami leads Atlanta 2-0. The Marlins have a runner on second base with nobody out in the top of the 3rd. Through 3 innings, it's the Orioles 4 and the Mets 1, and the Phillies have just taken a lead over the Red Sox in the top of the 2nd of that game, too. It's 2-0 Philadelphia. Live inside the Husker Sports Network studios, I'm Austin Norman.
Your state. Your team. Your show. This is Sports Nightly.
The triangle formation on the near side. JD split out left. They look left. Back to throw is Adrian. He can step up and he's going to try to run for the pylon. He's to the 5. He lays out. He's in. That's a 2-point play for Nebraska. And they've tied this game in Champaign at 35 apiece.
Now, let's check the pulse of Husker Nation with your hosts, Greg Sharp and Ben McLaughlin.
Thank you. We're back. Hour number 2, Sports Nightly here on the Husker Sports Network. Excited to have you with us here. Hope you had a good holiday weekend. Weather turned right after the weekend ended, so at least it was good for everybody to get out and get on the lake one more time, maybe do some camping over the weekend, work on the yard a little bit. It was pretty hot a couple of those days, but not anymore. It's really cooled down. Be careful, particularly if you're out in the Panhandle. A lot of some snow flying out there earlier today. All right, coming up this hour, Adam Rittenberg going to join us from ESPN.com. He's a national college football writer. He's going to join us throughout the fall on Mondays, but he's been agreed to jump on Tuesday nights since we had a best-of show last night on Labor Day. So Adam here in just a couple of minutes, and we'll go beyond the headlines. Brett and Austin will pick out some topics for Ben and I to discuss later on in the hour, and we'll have some open phones for you as well at 531-500-4686, or you can fire us off a text. Same number, 531-500-4686. That is our U.S. Cellular text line. U.S. Cellular, the official wireless provider of Husker Athletics. Well, he'll be a regular contributor to us starting this week, mostly on Mondays, but here tonight on Tuesday, Adam Rittenberg of ESPN.com. Good evening, Adam. How was your holiday weekend?
Oh, it was good, Greg. Got a little bit of college football, not as much as we all hoped, but at least they are playing some places, and hopefully they'll be playing where you and I live at some point in the near future.
Well, let's start with the Big Ten, and we had Teddy Greenstein on Thursday, and he wrote a piece that said the Big Ten needs to have something fairly soon on what they want to do. What is the plan moving forward? And I think a lot of the schools would like that too. Nebraska had a guy that entered the transfer portal on Friday, and I think the worry here and probably other places is that maybe the longer this goes without any kind of a decision when they'll play, you might lose more kids. What do you get any sense? Is the Big Ten close? Are they still weeks away from coming up with a plan?
Yeah, I mean, it's a hard one to sort of handicap. My sense in talking to sources is that the Big Ten will have a plan relatively soon. There's been so much outcry about what happened back about a month ago when they postponed the fall season. I think the idea from the Big Ten is when we speak next, we don't want to just talk about the past, but we want to talk about the future and really have a outline of who's deciding this. I think be a little bit more transparent about their medical folks and their rationale and some of the benchmarks that have to be reached for the president to feel comfortable to return to competition. So I'd imagine we will hear something by the end of next week at the latest as far as a plan. Now, is that a plan to project November as a start or October or January? That remains to be seen. But I do think the big development that's happened lately is this rapid testing with the Pac-12 announced last week. And what seems to be coming relatively quickly is the ability to test daily. I think once that's in place for the Big Ten and other leagues that aren't playing, they'll be a lot closer to getting back on the field.
You mentioned the Pac-12, Adam. Do you get the sense that they're trying to marry up with them and maybe have a season that runs parallel with each other so they can have a bit of a postseason at the end?
Well, if you can't align with the other conferences and be part of a national playoff, I think there would be a desire to at least align with a longtime partner in the Pac-12, the league that you play the traditional Rose Bowl matchup against, and a league that has been somewhat in lockstep with the Big Ten throughout this process. Now the leagues aren't completely similar. The Pac-12 is dealing with public health restrictions in California and Oregon that essentially have prevented those teams in the conference, which is half the league, from playing or from practicing rather. So it's a little bit different situation. I don't think there are many in the Big Ten I've talked to that do not want to wait for the Pac-12. But if it becomes apparent that there's no way that the Big Ten can be part of the traditional playoff and the traditional structure this year, it may make sense to do that. For a competitive standpoint and for a television standpoint and from a postseason standpoint, to be able to have some type of postseason against Pac-12 teams, at least that would be a bit of an incentive for everybody if they know that there's a bowl opportunity at the end.
Adam Rittenberg's with us. He's a college football writer for ESPN.com. He'll be with us throughout the fall. All right, let's jump into some of the action from this past weekend. How impressed were you with BYU's performance last night against Navy? And is there enough meat there that they could be a factor for the college football playoff when it comes down to December?
It's interesting. I was very impressed. It's hard not to be impressed, especially with their offensive line. But to your other point, unfortunately not. If they had their original schedule, which had a lot of Power 5 competition, I think including two Big Ten teams in Michigan State and Minnesota. I know they had some Pac-12 teams on there as well. That was a really impressive schedule that if BYU had run through it, they might have been considered for the playoff even in a normal environment. It's going to be really tough just looking at who they have left. No Power 5 opponents. They do have Houston, but we don't know how good Houston's going to be. They were a little down last year with a new coach and Dana Holgerson. But, yeah, hard not to be impressed with what they did. And, the running game was terrific. Now, Navy admittedly, really wasn't ready for the season. I mean, that was shocking to see out of a really well-coached team normally with Ken Niumatalolo, but because of their approach to practicing during this time, they clearly just couldn't block, they couldn't tackle, they couldn't do much of anything. But you give BYU credit for making that trip and putting a very impressive show on, and we'll see where they go from here.
Adam, the FBS season's 5 days old, and we already have a coaching change. What happened at Southern Miss?
Right. Yeah. I mean, this is one of those situations, Greg, where I think it was something that probably people there wanted to do earlier, and they just needed a reason. And that poor performance in the opening game on Thursday against South Alabama. Maybe just put everybody over the top. I know they've kind of phrased it as a mutual parting of ways, but I don't think any coach wants to leave his team after only one game, even if things aren't going well. And there was obviously some controversy about a year and a half ago when Jay Hopson tried to hire Art Briles as offensive coordinator and kind of openly voiced his displeasure with the administration for not allowing him to do so. So there's been some red flags around him and that program for a little while now. They've had a really good history at Southern Miss. I mean, the Jeff Bauer teams were always really tough. Larry Fedora won a Conference USA championship there. Todd Monken had some success. And Jay Hopson had some success, but I think this was just something that was probably coming, and a situation where coach was in the last year of his contract, and they just felt this was the time to make a change.
There's been a little bit of smoke, Adam, about Art Briles maybe having an interest in that job. Have you sensed any of that at all?
Oh, well, I'd have to look at their administration, but if it's pretty similar to what it was when they basically denied him that opportunity, I really couldn't see it happening, to be honest. I think that they'll have some interesting options at Southern Miss. No, they don't pay particularly well, at least compared to a lot of the FBS jobs. But given the fact that they basically said you couldn't hire him as offensive coordinator, I don't know if you can go ahead and hire him as the head coach. I think it's going to be an interesting candidate pool. I think they do, in some ways, need somebody, an older guy like Art, who has some experience as a head coach, but I just think that's going to bring a lot of negative headlines to your program, and I think it's probably best to go a different direction.
Right. All right, let's turn our attention to this week. Notre Dame with a ACC game. I saw that they were painting an ACC logo on their field. That's got to wake some ghosts up around South Bend, doesn't it?
Yes, it's going to be odd. I mean, there's so many odd things this year, and seeing that on the field, with an NBC broadcast of Notre Dame and Duke this week is certainly going to be interesting. And they actually have a really fun home schedule this year with Clemson and Florida State both coming in to South Bend later in the season. The Clemson game is really one of the best regular season matchups outside of the SEC all season. So I'm excited to see Notre Dame. I really like this team with a senior quarterback and Ian Book, arguably the nation's best offensive line. They've got some exciting young running backs who I'm interested to see getting out there, including Chris Tyree, who is a top recruit. So how they run the ball is going to be interesting. And then defensively, are they able to replace some of their pass rushing production and get some playmakers, linebacker in the secondary? So I think this is a top 10 team. And you're going against Duke, and their new quarterback, Chase Bryce, who transferred from Clemson. He was Trevor Lawrence's backup. He rescued them in that one game where I think it was against Syracuse, where Trevor got hurt a few years ago, and then Clemson went on to win a national title. So excited to see Chase get his opportunity with Duke going against Notre Dame this weekend.
Yeah. Also, that league's pretty much playing league games this week. You've got Georgia Tech, Florida State. What do you make of the Seminoles? Can they make any noise at all here in 2020?
Yeah, they'll be one of the more interesting storylines. Now, Georgia Tech's picked last in the ACC. There's not a lot of optimism around them, although I think Jeff Collins will have better recruits in there in short order. But Florida State, we know there's always talent there, but they have not maximized it in recent years. And I'm very interested to see how the Mike Norvell offense works and whether it clicks right away or if it takes a little bit of time. But everywhere Mike has been, whether it's as a coordinator at Arizona State or head coach at Memphis, his offense generates big plays. And so this could be a very exciting Florida State unit. Now, they have to block, and that offensive line has been one of the nation's worst position groups relative to their talent in quite some time. So they got to be better on the line, and they got to make some big plays, and they got to stop people on defense. But I really like this hire, and I think even if it doesn't work right away, I think Mike Norvell and his staff will end up having success in Tallahassee.
It'll be interesting to follow. All right, you home basing it this week? You're going to go venture out? What are you doing?
Home base for the foreseeable future. I know we'll be on every week, and I will keep you posted if I leave. And I'd certainly love to get out. I think Notre Dame is probably the likeliest destination for me this year. But for now, I'll just be watching with everyone else until the Big Ten gets back on the field.
Ames, Iowa. They'd take you over in Ames, Iowa.
I was there for the Cy-Hawk game last year. I spent about 16 hours in that stadium with 2 lightning delays, but I'd welcome the chance to go see Matt Campbell's guys go after it. I know not so much this week, but once they get into Big 12 play, it could be a good spot for me.
Very good, Adam. We'll resume on Mondays with you next week after the holiday weekend this week. Have fun watching the games this weekend.
Yeah, looking forward to it. You too. Thanks, Greg.
Adam Rittenberg, ESPN.com, joining us on our Sports Nightly Hotline, brought to you by the Woodhouse Auto Family, bringing you more choices in brands, locations, and service. Experience the difference. This is Woodhouse. All right, Ben will rejoin me next. We'll have our Beyond the Headlines segment coming up. Austin Norman, Brett Woody about to join on as we go Beyond the Headlines.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
5 seconds left in the game. Do you believe in miracles? Yes!
And that's the way it is. Good night.
Beyond the Headlines.
Well, the first headline to mention is that for the first show all summer, I am not wearing cargo shorts. It's jeans weather. It's weird.
Yeah, sad.
Oh, man.
You probably put the cargo shorts back on this weekend, though.
That is in the plan.
Yeah, we're not done with the 80s and 70s. They'll be back.
No, this is just a sneak preview of what's to come.
Yeah.
It's a horrible sneak preview. It's cold and dreary and dark. But hey, that's why we bring you Beyond the Headlines, to brighten your evenings up. And we'll lead off with a little bit of NBA talk here. So during yesterday's Game 3 in the Western Conference semis between the Los Angeles Clippers and the Denver Nuggets, Clippers star Kawhi Leonard blocked a Jamal Murray dunk attempt with only his middle finger. What's the most symbolically disrespectful move you guys have ever seen in a sports contest?
You think that was disrespectful? That was incredible.
Symbolically. It was symbolically.
That was an amazing block, wasn't it? Wow.
Yeah.
I'd say anytime somebody dunks over somebody, that's disrespectful.
Posterizes guys.
Yeah, I mean, bat flips. Yeah. The Jose Bautista bat flip.
Oh, boy. Oh.
How about T.O. running to the Star in Dallas Stadium against the Cowboys?
How about Randy Moss in the end zone?
Randy Moss mooning Lambeau Field.
Who had the Sharpie? Was it Moss or T.O. that had the Sharpie?
That was T.O., I think.
Joe Horn had the cell phone.
That's right.
That's a good one. That was a good one.
Honestly, and I hate to say this because he's a Husker, but getting stepped over by, Tyronn Lue getting stepped over by
Allen
Iverson.
And the thing that jumped in my mind
one.
was the Ole Miss guy, the football player that acted like a dog.
Yeah.
That was pretty
bad.
Wait,
whoa. Which one was this?
Football
Last
game,
year.
Ole Miss against Mississippi State, the Egg Bowl. The guy scored a touchdown, then he acted like he was a dog urinating.
Really? Okay, yeah. You just rang the bell. Yep, I do remember that.
That was pretty bad.
I didn't think that was just only a year ago. Yeah, that's pretty horrible.
See, the one that came to mind for me, kind of more along the lines of the Kawhi block, was Ndamukong Suh in that 2009 Big 12 championship game, just ragdolling Colt McCoy. Like, your offensive line can't stop me. You can't stop me. I'm just going to throw you to the ground like you're about 6 years old.
Yep.
See what a few disrespectful moments in his career. Just a few. Next topic, switching over to the NFL here. Earlier today, the Arizona Cardinals made DeAndre Hopkins the highest paid non-quarterback in the league with a 2-year extension that includes $42.5 million fully guaranteed, making his contract a 5-year, $94 million deal with an average of $18.8 million a year. So do you guys think that Hopkins is being properly valued by the Cardinals here? And also, in your minds, who are the best non-quarterbacks in the league right now?
He's really good. I understand why he got that kind of money. That is you can't even fathom that much money. But good for him. I think who got him in our draft, by the way? Any of us?
Know.
I might have gotten him actually.
Okay,
because I know he was on my radar. That's for sure.
He was in my queue, and I think I was 3 or 4 picks away. And I'm like, "Ooh, come on!" And then bye, he was gone.
Yeah, I definitely think he's worth the money. I think he's a special freak talent. I mean, he just doesn't drop passes. He runs great routes. Pretty easy guy to cheer for. Yeah, I think, especially at a place like Arizona, when you've got an up-and-coming quarterback and you got a new coach who wants to install an offensive system. I mean, that's his safety blanket as it gets for a quarterback to have a guy like that. I think it's smart money. Other guys that are, you think about right now that are, elite, not quarterbacks, Christian McCaffrey, Ezekiel Elliott, all that group of running backs, Saquon, defensively Aaron Donald, Von Miller.
Give some defensive guys some love here.
Yeah,
those
Aaron
two
Donald,
guys.
Von Miller.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like Mick got him in our league.
I would be a little higher on Arizona going into this year if they weren't in that division. That's just going to be a meat grinder, that division. Whoa.
At least the top two teams, the Rams will probably bounce back a little bit, you'd like to think. But topic number 3 here. So last week, national fast food restaurant Taco Bell made some plans to pare its menu down come November. It's going to be cutting items including the Mexican pizza, pico de gallo, and all its shredded chicken options. So with that in mind, what cuts or additions would you guys like to see to fast food menus?
To any fast food menu?
Any fast food menu.
The ones they made didn't bother me. I wasn't a fan of their Mexican pizza. The moves, and some people were upset a little bit about some of the stuff that they're taking off, but I wasn't all that upset with anything they've removed from their menu. In-N-Out could get rid of their fries, and that wouldn't hurt me one bit at all.
Yeah. Well, honestly, I wish they would bring back their lava sauce, that hot sauce they used to put on stuff. That was really good. I was a huge fan of that when they did that. I don't think a lot of people got it though.
Well, that's probably why it didn't last. But
yeah,
I tell you what, you drive by a Taco Bell location like around the noon hour, and the line's always in the street. I mean, people just love going to Taco Bell to get their lunch or late night snacks. That's probably where Brett goes, late night snack time to Taco Bell.
Fourth meal.
Yeah. Yeah,
that used to
post
be
game.
Real, yeah. You'd go there right before, I think they closed at like 11 or 12. It was the go-to move. The only place that was open on this side of town. All right, topic number 4. This one non-sports related. An Austrian man broke a world record for the longest duration of full body contact with ice over the weekend by sitting in a tub of ice for over 2.5 hours.
Oh, my
This beat his previous record set a year ago by 30 minutes. The man, 43-year-old Joseph Kerbel, has said that he will attempt to break the record again next year, targeting a 3-hour mark next time. But first, I'd like to know how long each of you could last just in a cold tub. We'll say a cold tub. And then second, what is a world record that you've always wanted to set?
Man.
Maybe
I
it's
don't
not
think I
tangible.
could make it
Maybe
more than like. I mean, I feel like there's a threshold of you getting used to it, and then like, okay, you got to get out. Like when you jump into a cold pool, right? I mean, there's like obviously it shocks you at first, but then there's a moment where you're like, okay, this is still really cold, but it's not like the worst thing in the world. But then there's a moment where it's like, okay, I got to get out of this thing. I kind of feel like that would be the same situation with a cold tub. I haven't been in too many cold tubs before, but I would say I'd cap between 3 and 5 minutes in there.
That was my thought too. I was thinking somewhere in that 3 to 5 range too. I think, I would force myself to hang in there for the first couple. And you're right. And then I think your body would go, okay, I got this. And then your body would go, get the heck out of here.
Yeah, what are you doing?
What are you doing? It's not worth this thing.
My question was, when does hypothermia start to set in this whole process? Because I read a lot of articles about this, but nobody talked about hypothermia. So
can we get Bear Grylls in here, resident expert, to let us know?
He'd probably just say, kids, don't sit in a tub of ice for over 2.5 hours.
If you're going to drink your own pee, it'll help, right?
Well, I Googled what world records that would be easy to beat. How about this one? Most socks that you could put on 1 foot in 30 seconds. Now, that one I could try, right? I mean, you could give that at least a go.
What's the record?
You'd probably have to get your flexibility a little better there, Greg.
Yeah, you're right. I would have to do some more digging, Ben, to tell you what the record is.
I feel like, a record that I bet I could seriously contend for
Most lava sauce packets down in 30 seconds?
Maybe. It is an eating challenge. Most Slim Jims eaten. I bet I could.
Ooh,
I bet I
that's
could.
good.
I bet I could. Well, professional eaters would have me dominated, but like that.
Joe
I don't know. I
Chestnut.
feel like that's something I could perform well above average in.
Yeah, just those kind
Those
of
are good
goofy,
ones.
silly things that don't require pain or total embarrassment.
Or a skill, or like you can't like slackline across.
Right.
I don't even know. A couple
Eating,
buildings.
eating something might have lasting effects, though, Ben.
Maybe
Oh, it will.
short-term
It-
pain,
for sure.
long-term gain.
If it means a world record, it means pain. That's for sure. The BW3's challenge was not for anything but a picture on the wall, and that was pretty excruciating. So
Oh, I'm sure, yeah.
Did you get it done?
I did.
That a
complete
boy.
that when I could not do it today though. I'd promise you I would not be. My stomach would.
So
say,
we were in
no,
Iowa
thank
City
you.
once at a baseball tournament or a baseball series, and the group of our dining out group that we're typically with, there were 4 of us. We had a coupon within the group that was a free snack size wing, and so we're like, none of us had tried the blazing kind before, so it was a table decision to get the hottest blazing wings that you could get, and it might have only been 4 wings, I don't know, but there was enough for everybody to try one, and so we start going around and passing them out, and at the last second, one of the members of the travel party bailed out, and symbolic that he is the only member of the travel party to not be working with the University of Nebraska anymore. He may or may not be occupied with a baseball game tonight.
No other hands. No other hands.
I will not say his name, but
I've been to that.
I have an idea.
I've been to that BW's in Iowa City.
you and I went together.
Yeah.
Well, I think the last time we were there.
Because that's like, when we get kind of wrapped up on a Friday night game, there's not a lot of stuff open, and we knew that one would be, and we didn't think it was. Remember, we walked in, we're like, I think they're closed, and then they're like, no, we're still serving. So
Yep. So sure enough, everybody got it down except that one participant, or non-participant, I should say.
Yeah.
I have still never had B-dubs in my life.
You got to be kidding me.
I am not kidding.
Wait,
what did you just say?
I have never once been to B-dubs.
Where are you from?
Why?
I
Is this like
I don't know. It's not. I'm not taking a stand against it or anything. I just have never gone.
You have got to be kidding me.
I am not kidding you.
All
This
right,
is worse than Tim not seeing Moneyball.
Oh, my God.
It is. It is.
We got to do a post-show run then sometime.
Okay, no.
right?
Here's what we're going to do.
Yeah.
Our next Beyond the Headlines, we need to get Austin some Buffalo Wild Wings and try them on the air.
If nothing else, I'll order them here for the show on Thursday.
Well, you better put the
give it a
order
shot.
in on Wednesday because their service isn't great.
Here's the question: do you go bone in or boneless though?
I think he's got to try both. I mean, this is
get
this
him a little
isn't-
snack pack of both.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
What type of wing do you normally go for, Austin?
I'm not a big sauce guy. I can have a little bit, but more the dry wing.
They do
You
have
won't do bar-
they do have
you won't-
rubs.
Yeah.
You won't do barbecue?
I'm not that messy of an eater. I don't like getting that messy. I've never been a
Okay.
big sauce guy on anything, so I go more.
You
for
might
rubs.
ask for the sauce on the side because they can get a little aggressive with that sauce sometimes.
I'm a
No
little
garlic?
appalled right now, to be honest with you.
No garlic parmesan?
Oh,
no.
I love garlic parmesan. That's
Well, there you
that's
go.
up there. Yeah.
There's okay.
That
Honey?
works.
Found a
They
common
do a
ground.
honey sauce?
There is a menu of like 18 sauces on that baby. You got to find one that you can try.
I'll skim through it for Wednesday/Thursday.
This is unbelievable. I can't believe what
I
I'm hearing
can't.
right
Yeah, I'm kind of struck. I can't.
now. This is almost like the time that my now wife had told me when we started dating she had never seen the movie Dumb and Dumber. I'm almost just as flabbergasted now as I was then.
Wow, I feel like I accomplished something here tonight.
You did.
Another person who accomplished something over the weekend, Novak Djokovic. He defaulted at the U.S. Open by letting out some frustration and hitting a ball toward the wall, but he accidentally nailed a line judge right in the neck, which was not good. He was contrite, and everyone knew it was an accident, but it still results in an automatic ejection. So which is a worse ejection rule? The one that got Djokovic ejected from the U.S. Open or football's targeting rule?
Targeting times 1,000.
I agree with what they did with Djokovic. You've got to be, as they say, you've got to be in control of your equipment, and you can't put anybody in danger. I mean, I don't think he meant to hit her, But he meant to swat the ball, obviously, some way.
Right.
And so it hit him. I have no problem with them disqualifying Djokovic from that, but the targeting rule is maddening in football. There's no doubt.
Oh, man. That just got her square in the throat. Like,
sure did.
It's and like that song on Mr. Deeds when he's playing tennis and just whacks that dude right in the throat. Oh, that one got you right in the throat, huh? Whoops.
Oh, boy. All right. Next topic, a little soccer question for you guys. Lionel Messi returned to training with Barcelona over the weekend after he came out and said that he was not going to take the club to court over his contract dispute. Messi will now most likely play his final season in a Barcelona uniform after an over 17-year career with them. Needless to say, it's going to be an awkward send-off for one of the game's greats. So what are you guys' thoughts on the story? And are there any other players across sports that you can remember that had some famous contract disputes or were kept on a team that they didn't want to be on?
How does that affect our buy-sell question with that?
It's going to be a sell because he's not going to Manchester City now.
Okay, so it's sell.
Yeah, it'll be a sell.
I can't remember. It was like 2 weeks ago. I can't remember how I answered that, but
I think I bought it and one of you guys followed with me, so I'm sorry in advance to one of you guys.
Probably me then.
Yeah, I think it was me, actually.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, you've had athletes that have had kind of major divorces from franchises in the past. I mean, LeBron having the decision to go to Miami, and then that got awkward with his owner. But then he came back and played for the Cavs. That was certainly an oddity that you had. I mean, kind of the breakup of Peyton in your Colts, Austin. I mean, that wasn't clean. And Brett Favre with the Packers, that got ugly and nasty at the end when they drafted Rodgers. I mean, there's a handful of those that kind of pop in your mind.
Yeah, I was thinking about Emmitt Smith too back in the 90s when he had to sit out the first.
Austin, are you over Manning leaving the Colts or not? Is that still stuck in your craw?
Well, it would have been nice to see him finish his career out, but also I didn't have to watch old decrepit Peyton. I know he had that whole year with the Broncos when he was absolutely money.
That was all defense, though.
And it was because he won a title that I can be at peace with it. I was still rooting for him when he went to Denver. And, at that time, Andrew Luck was the new hotshot, so he had to wish Peyton all the best. You can understand why the team made the decision it did. It would have been sad to see, Peyton struggle because that team wasn't getting much better with how Ryan Grigson was building it. So he went to a better situation for him. He got another ring, and that's all I could ask for.
Very good.
All right, we will wrap up Beyond the Headlines with this. So today, Toronto/Buffalo Blue Jays pitcher Taijuan Walker became the first player in the American Big Four sports leagues to have worn both numbers 00 and 99. If you guys could reserve two jersey numbers to wear at your discretion, what would they be and why?
Yeah, he didn't pitch so well tonight. I think he walked like 5 guys.
5 walks hit by pitch, 2 hits, and only 1 run allowed.
That's a forgettable line.
At one point in the game, this is kind of a crazy stat. At one point in the game, he faced 22 Yankees batters, 11 of them reached base, and he didn't allow a run. How do you figure that?
Wait.
Had to have some double plays in there or pickoff or something. Caught stealing. Had to be a bunch of that type of things. What was the question again?
Numbers, jersey numbers.
2 jersey numbers. You get to reserve them. They're all yours.
When I was growing up, I loved the number 22. I don't know why. I didn't really have an athlete that I followed that wore number 22, but I liked the same number being doubled up.
Interesting. I'll go with my. Okay, that's one of yours. I'll go with my first baseball number was 4, so I'll rock that one.
You Good and Alex.
Number. I'll go 4, and I'll go. What other number did I wear a lot? Kind of feel like I had 12 a bunch, so I'll go 4 and 12.
Give me 7. I'll go 7 for my other one. 7 and 22. How about you boys?
I would go with 8 and 14. 5 was my favorite number. I never ended up getting that except for 1 year of basketball. But my sophomore year of varsity baseball, I got the number 8 jersey. I carried that one through. Legion ball, I looked for that 8, couldn't get it. So I got number 14, and so I'd go with 8 and 14. And funny enough, those are the 2 numbers my brothers got to wear this year. So that was pretty cool. Kept those in the family. So I'd go 8 and 14.
Brett?
I'd go 25 and 2. 25 just because I was born on the 25th, so that was always the number for me. Also,
I feel like I got 5 a bunch, Austin. I feel like that's another number I wore a lot. 4 and 5.
5's another good one. I like the single-digit numbers for sports.
Yeah.
Single digits they're just so slim. There's something so, you're the man, I think, when you have a single-digit number.
Yeah. It means you're on the starting roster. You're starting.
Very good. Well done. Good topics. Those are fun. And Austin blows us away, but he hasn't had
Can't believe it.
B-dubs. That's crazy. All right, phone lines are open. 531-500-4686. The number if you want to dial us up with a comment or question. Any thoughts about our Beyond the Headlines topics, or fire us off a text. Back with more next. 531-500-4686. The number if you want to dial us up with a comment or question. We did not have a show last time. We had a best of because of the Labor Day holiday, so we didn't get a chance to recap some of the weekend stories. How good has Dustin Johnson been, Ben, over the last month? He's won. He went like first, second, and first in the 3 FedEx Cup tournaments in Boston, Chicago, and Atlanta. It earned him $15 million yesterday for the win of the Tour Championship, and then he won a tournament in late June in the Travelers. What a summer for that guy! He was like a machine out there.
Yeah, just pure domination. It was really fun to watch. Him just pin hunting and with him, we all know he can bomb the ball off the tee, but putting the way that he was, I mean, there was a while ago where we were talking about. Sometimes you play the competition, sometimes you play the course, play to beat the course, and he's been doing that the last few tournaments. I mean, it hasn't even mattered, what the competition's been like. He's just been that good. So, yeah, I mean, he earned it. There's no question about that.
And then the PGA Today came out with their Player of the Year is Justin Thomas.
Yeah.
And I don't know when the vote was taken. I don't know whether it was taken yesterday or today or whether it was taken a couple weeks ago, but that seems a little odd to do that after the domination we've seen from DJ over the last month. And Tiz the Law goes down in the Derby. Couldn't overtake Authentic down the stretch. So Authentic nudges Tiz the Law, who was an underwater favorite at 4-5 when they went off, but couldn't get the second leg of the Triple Crown. You watch any of that?
I saw the rerun of it. I did not watch it live, but I saw it come across Twitter that it was not Tiz the Law, and I thought, all right, buy-sell question in my pocket. I love it.
Yeah, that was fun. We covered all that. We'll get our updated buy-sell answers tomorrow night and a whole new set of questions coming your way tomorrow night. 531-500-4686. We're back to wrap up this hour next. The number if you want to dial us up with a comment or question. The number 1 seed in the East in the NBA playoffs about to be sent out of the bubble. The Bucks are down 9 to the Heat. About 5 minutes to go. It's a 3-1 series lead for the Heat, so Miami about to bounce the Milwaukee Bucks. Austin Orman called this weeks ago. He called his shot, Ben, to take the Heat.
Yeah, kudos to Austin for being the MVP on that and just, grabbing the bull by the horns, not afraid to make a bold prediction, and here we are. And now he gets to beat his chest a little bit. So, yeah, big-time congratulations to Austin and the Miami Heat for being able to put together just a heck of a run. They're a good team. They're kind of feeling it right now. Kind of said after might have been the first or second game in that they played that they kind of play like that team that just doesn't really care much and about what everybody says and does, and they're just going to go play their game, and it's worked. And a lot of credit to Coach Spoelstra and obviously that entire team for putting together some good basketball when it matters most.
Austin, you want to take a victory lap here?
I'd like to say thank you for noting that I called that. I think officially I went with Milwaukee to win, but I did say watch out for Miami. So I will be honest with our listeners, but I did say that Miami does a lot of things well that Milwaukee struggles with. So I will take at least partial credit for it.
Well, they, as long as they don't flop here in the last, what is it now, 5:19 left in the game, they will await the winner of the series between Boston and Toronto. Boston won Game 5 last night to go up 3-2, so they need just one more win. And that would put your Kemba Walker into the East Conference Championship. And now you're going to start buying leprechaun stuff, and you're going to start wearing a lot of green probably around the area.
I want to buy leprechaun stuff when we're in Ireland next year. That's when I want to buy leprechaun stuff. Okay. Other than that, no Boston Celtics gear for me, please. Unless it's a Kemba jersey. If it's a Kemba jersey, I'd take it. I don't know that I'd pay money for it, but I would accept it.
He's your guy. I think it's going to be the Celtics and the Heat. That'll be a fun East Conference final. Callers and guests into our show. Dial us up on our Sports Only hotline, brought to you by the Woodhouse Auto Family, bringing you more choices in brands, locations, and service. Experience the difference. Purchase with confidence. This is Woodhouse. Good hour. Thanks to Adam Rittenberg for spending some of his Tuesday night with us. He'll be back on Mondays starting next week. Next hour, our Top 10 Tuesday. We're going to power rank the NFL for you. That's next.